Colleagues, can we start down so that we can start, please? Where's the on? You need to turn it. Good morning, good morning. Can we get started, please?
Good morning, colleagues. We are fine. We would like to welcome you to today's Teaching with Technology Day. I hope that you are going to find it quite inspiring and learn something from it and implement something you learn from the day to day. I'm not going to talk a lot. With you, you've got a program. There are just a few changes in the program. At 11 o'clock in venue 1, we were supposed to have a presentation by Professor Johannes Cronje. That is changed. We'll have a presentation by Professor Janet Condi. She'll be talking on being human today, colliding world views. And in the afternoon, we have workshops. The workshop in venue 3, which was going to be done by Asanda Goasheng, she will not be around, but she has recorded. So we have a recorded workshop. And our students will be there to give their voice. This is venue 1. Venue 2 is next door, next to the registration. Venue 3 is upstairs, so don't get mixed up. With that, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker. He's not going to speak now, but I'm just acknowledging him. He is with us. You are welcome, Carol. I'll introduce you later. And I'll hand over to our director, Mr. Sakkie Smit. He's going to welcome you, give you a short presentation on what the unit does, and introduce Professor Anton Stark, DVC Teaching and Learning or Academic Affairs, to open the event officially. Over to you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Eunice. Colleagues, thank you for all of you coming. Just a short intro in what we do at the Center for Innovative Educational Technology. E-learning as a concept has been with us for quite a while, and I think e-learning encompasses everything if you look at the definition. But it's also something that where a lot of people normally think of educational technology and normal teaching as being two separate entities. And that is why the theme for this workshop today will focus mainly on blending. We need to start blending what we do, and I'll tell you why. As you've noticed, over the past months, about a year, we suddenly hear politicians talking about the Industrial Revolution. And they talk about the fourth Industrial Revolution. If you ask them what were the first three, they can't tell you. So why then do we talk about something? And I've heard a lot of people talking about the fifth Industrial Revolution, but that one has not been coined yet. We don't know whether it's going to be artificial intelligence or what, but that one is not really being defined. So at least we've got 4 that we know of. And CPUT, in the index slide, we said, what is a vision of CPUT going forward for the next 10 years? The Vision 2030. it will be to really establish ourselves as a university of technology with our vision of being the best university of technology for Africa. And then also sometimes we say we want to be the MIT of Africa. So there's a long way to go to do that, but it's like how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we need to start somewhere. And I must also be honest, we're not doing bad. If I benchmark CPUT, especially on the use of educational technology versus other universities, they are in the top order. We've got certain fields that, like in analytics, that only 3 other universities are delving into. So we are getting there. But let's have a look at, we've got the 4 industrial revolutions up to now. The first one started with mechanization. As you can see, people started making sense of water, power, steam, and suddenly they saw that they can basically move things without having to use hand labor. That brought them to the second level where they started to pick up a mechanized environment. That means construction for vehicles in a straight line, doing things in a line. And everything started getting together. It's not just one thing that you build from A to Z. It's one thing that you build part by part, and I may be working on only one component. So the typical factory lines were developed in that stage. The third revolution was the welcoming of computers. Now, computers came back from about 50s. In the 50s, they were doing some work on computers, but really in the 60s and around 69, I think, was the emphasis of the use of computers. And we also, as academics, we got into there. That's normally in the 70s, early 80s, when we started getting into the personal computers, PCs, where we started looking at how can we use that for teaching and learning. And a lot of the development at that stage was done around that. So let's get into the first one. As you can see from especially the photos, teaching and learning took place by a learned person in a small group, sitting somewhere, and the exchange of information. But it was done in a discussion group. It was not in a very formalized structure, but people were taught, and also then they were taught on how to get into that phrase of doing a certain job in a specific new machine environment. With the second revolution, this is where, according to me, most of the damage for education happened. Because this was the first sort of massification of learning. So what did they do? Like what I see in front of me. They put people in rows, hands on the deck, tell them to shut up because I'm talking. The teacher-centric process. And if you think of your own teaching, even today, don't you see this type of thing too many times still? Do you still teach like what they did? The second revolution, the center of that was about 1870. That's a long time ago. But we still teach like that. A mass production type environment. Then the next revolution brought us something new. Suddenly we had computers and automation. Suddenly we had computers that you can use where people can sit. Most of the training then went to computer-based training. You give a student a CD, they work on their own, on their personal machine, and they do some work on that. But it was still, as you can see, all the labs were set up, rigid labs, like what we still have. All in a row, students sit there having to do monkey see, monkey do. And that type of training is also there. So we have moved from the person to the computer, but the sort of methodology of the main academic, your knowledgeable person, is still the same. I say, you do, please shut up, don't interrupt me. Then, and this is where we are now, in the fourth revolution. As you can see in the machinery part, suddenly all of these machines got a wireless link to it. Why? Because machines now start talking to each other independently. They are controlled from various points. That means we now have a connected world where time and place is now being confused. You don't need to be at all the places at the same time, or you don't need to be basically working on that spot. You can use that from a distance. You can manage your automation and so from a distance. Machines are interconnected. And we should also look at interconnecting our students. As you can see, students are now not only learning in the classroom, they are now learning on their own, but they are connected to their teacher, to their lecturer. They are connected with the learning. And the hours have been a little bit thrown deur mekaar, because now what you've got, they can train anytime. So a bit of a problem. We now see that people are not disconnecting. They keep on being connected. Okay, so how do we do this now? How are we going to use the fourth revolution active? The first thing is, we have taken up the challenge as part of the whole development that we are talking about, the blended learning. Blending classroom activity and blending that with computers, all in organized manner with learner management system and other connected tools. We put our information on the web. Students can go anywhere. They don't need to be in the same spot. But sometimes, when we do buildings, what do? We keep on building new buildings where most of the buildings are not always full or used full and only used in a short slot. Why? Can't we make more use of buildings by not doing that? Some of the building learning projects, we are working with the curriculum officers. We're developing online learning and learning, online teaching and learning in a blended learning guidelines. We created most of these guidelines during our own Fees Must Fall, also to give guidelines on how to do assessment at a distance. We started going into proctoring to make sure that students can be sitting at a distance and still do their assessments. So that is ongoing, and that is a fairly good activity currently between CIET and the Curriculum Officer Forum. Short course, we've just had our second short course on blended learning, course design. We are also actively working with, again, the curriculum officers in the curriculation process to make sure that people understand blended learning and use the guidelines for blended learning getting there. So on that aspect, I think we're also doing well, that we really move this in a structured way forward. One example is the diploma in real estate. I like that qualification in the sense that they were sort of thrown into the deep end and they had to develop most of that in 1 year. I think Sarita was the main person running around and making sure. But then at the same time, it means that they took all the lecturers along with this process. So it's the whole course that developed, and now it is a fairly straightforward one. But still problems here and there, but they are online. And they servicing the students fully on a full distance education mindset. We also assist lecturers to design their own open educational resources. We've got something like how many? 15 or 20 current pieces of previously designs in our open repository in the library. And it's going on. This year we've got 9 students with 9,000 Rand where they can use that money to really develop, and we give the support to that. And then lastly, what we do is we also want to measure. Learner analytics is something that links up to what we see worldwide with big data. But how do you use your big data in such a way that it makes sense? Try not to use the big data for punitive measures, but really to identify students at risk and then basically use that for support and development. Now that UCDG project has got 2 arms. The one is for analytics for learn students at risk, and the second one is on predictive analytics, research and development. Is it possible to predict better in terms of current learning activity to see whether a student is going the right way or not? And in that sense, we can then make some changes, assist the student with some intervention so that we can make sure that the students do improve their throughput and success, because that at the end is the end goal. So analytics, we're busy drafting ethical guidelines on the use of that. It should be ready by later this year. We will run a second workshop with people up north who's also been doing that, where we're going to look at how they implement their learning analytics and what value they've got from that. So by the end of this year, we will have a good feel of that. And then a lot of research and development needs to happen to really drive the development of analytics reports in such a way that it can add value to each and every program. So today you're going to see most of the work done. You will be able to pick up certain aspects of the work that we do, especially from the students who did the short course. So with that, thank you, welcome, and let's start a day where we can really start looking forward on how we're going to take CPUT forward in terms of blended learning and make it the MIT of Africa. Thank you.